here on the sleeve too, actively black. Man, what are you mad about now? I'm familiar with Actively Black. It's a black-owned sports brand, activewear, started by Lanny Smith. Yeah, but don't piss you off. Why would it piss me off? What if we had actively white gear? We've had it. Man, what? Look, never mind. What's the point of your little tirade here? My point is I'm so sick and tired of black. This is Black History Month. Why don't we have a White History Month? I agree with you. Wait, what? I agree. Let's have a White History Month. In fact, let's start right now. Okay. We'll call it the overview. All right. Okay, in order to talk about white history, we need to go back to where the white race began, 1676. You see, prior to this, white had been used as a descriptor of people, but never had been an official race. But after we colonized America and stole land from the indigenous people, the Europeans here had a problem. The poor people kept having rebellions against the rich people. So what they decided was to create the white race. This was a way to convince people that you were part of something bigger than yourself and that the rich people weren't your enemy, but those other people were. Now, who was allowed to be white? That changed over the years. You see, for the next century and a half, chattel slavery was based primarily around race, and it started from the transatlantic slave trade. And throughout the 17th and 18th century, even into the 19th century, certain people that came over that we identify as white now were not identified as white then. For example, the Italians or the Irish initially were not considered white, but because white is a completely made-up race, they later decided Italian and Irish people are white. This idea is called white supremacy, where we create this mythology of a race that's superior than other races. Like, hey, poor white man, you might not be rich, but at least you're not an enslaved black man. In 1860, the idea of abolishing slavery was becoming more popular, and white people didn't like that. Abraham Lincoln, who was an abolitionist himself, became president, and the southern states here in America seceded from the Union. You've heard the story. It's called the Civil War. Now, after the Civil War ended in 1865, white people didn't just give up their white supremacy. No, they then began a series of things called Jim Crow laws. These laws were intended to target black people. Black people were found to be criminals for anything, and they held public lynchings during the Jim Crow period. That continued until 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education desegregated schooling. Of course, white people were not happy about that. There's lots of videos and photographs of it. And then in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which was supposed to provide equality across the races. Of course, white people were pissed about that. Now wait a minute. You're only talking about the bad things that white people did. What about the good things? Now slow down there, Cletus. I haven't talked about all the bad things yet. This is just the overview. We haven't even got to gentrification, redlining, legacy admissions, the war on drugs, the FBI infiltration of black liberation movements. The white race has a very long history of oppressing and marginalizing black and brown. Man, look at this. Look at this. Actively black.
All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. Shout out to the brother Jolly Good Ginger for breaking down the history of white supremacy. I always like to let white people do it, so when I do it, they can't say that I'm race baiting or playing the race card. And also, I had to put on my Actively Black sweatshirt. Let me move the microphone a little bit. Actively Black is a black-owned brand created by, once again, Lanny Smith. So I had to throw the Actively Black on. Y'all make sure y'all go and support that brand. But my brother puts out some great points about the history of white supremacy. And I always let people know that the white supremacy thing, or the white quote unquote race, started to subjugate all races. And as he mentioned, it happened after they colonized America and stole all the land from the indigenous people. Many consider those people black as well. And then they started having a problem because it wasn't about race, because it was all the white people pretty much in the control, but it was about poor versus rich. The white people started rebelling against the others. So they accepted and said, nah, you are, better than them, and they took that to heart. They embraced that explanation. And then other people started coming over, the Italians, the Irish. Now, mind you, you already had the white Europeans here. So they looked at them, was like, nah, you're not coming over, getting none of our resources. So we're going to treat you not white. So what did they do? They subjugated them in the ghettos, the Jews, the Italians, the Irish. And what did they do instead? They had the mob, the Irish mob, the Italian mob, the Jewish mob. So I always like to explain to people is criminality is not inherent to a certain race. It's inherent to the conditions that they are confined in. But later on, they started accepting them as the white race. And that went along with the abolition of slavery. And the ones who didn't like it were mostly the poor whites, because then they had to contend with the blacks. And that is evident today, because some of the most racist and redneck people are the poorest whites, in the back hills of North Carolina, in the back hills of Tennessee, in the woods of Alabama and Mississippi. Those are the ones who hold that dearly, because they were at the bottom of the totem pole with us. But when we were free, then they had to exert their dominance over us, because once again, they were white and they could do anything to us. And the white people who were rich and in power were not going to punish the poor whites. Think about it. Most of what we saw, most of the dereliction towards black people mostly came from poor white people. Then they abolished slavery, which once again, the poor white people didn't like. And then so they started putting in the Jim Crow laws, the segregation, all of these advancements that were, or all of these limitations on black people that were enforced a lot of time by poor whites. But then as the laws start to give us, certain privileges, that continue to cause ire from, the poor whites and things like that. And then the brother was like, hold on, man. What have we done good? Wait a minute. It's not over. They still have the things that exist today. The economic gentrification, the war on drugs, the redlining, the steering, all of these COINTELPRO programs that have been designed to keep black people in the lowest position. And most of all, people say forget slavery, but keep in mind, we are still living the residual effects of slavery, meaning black people were not allowed to pass down generational wealth from all of the work that they did building up the white wealth of these families who were able to pass those riches down to their siblings. Like even today, we still got, houses or places called Plantation Road, Jones Plantation, Biltmore Plantation. All of those things are direct remnants of slavery. So it's good, when, a white man, my man named Jolly Good Ginger, he always, kind of calls out, some of the things that are continuously wrong today. Now, whether he's doing anything about it is the question, because white people who are against the systems or against the treatment of blacks, it's okay to speak about it. But what are you doing with your white privilege, your white power, your white supremacy to eradicate these things? That is the question. But once again, shout out to Actively Black, and also my man Jolly Good Ginger for, being a whistleblower, so to speak, for white supremacy. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.